She promised an intense, full-body session, and she wasn't lying. She took everything I had, pushing me to my absolute limit right there in the cab. She didn't stop until I was completely drained, just a hollowed-out wreck by sunrise. People think this job is lonely, but I've never felt so utterly empty in my life as I did after that night. She left me with nothing. All right, so the rig's parked for the night, tucked away in some forgotten corner of an industrial park outside of Des Moines. The kind of place where the silence is just the hum of transformers and the memory of forklifts. Rain's coming down in sheets, drumming a steady beat on the roof of the cab, the kind of rhythm that usually puts me right to sleep. I'm finishing up my logs, sipping the last of some truck stop coffee that tastes more like disappointment than caffeine, when there's a knock on my passenger side window. Now, you get a knock out here, this time of night, it's usually one of two things: another driver needing a jump, or a lot lizard looking for a warm place to do business. And since every other rig in this lot is dark and cold, the hum of their reefer unit's long silence for the night, I figure I know which one it is. Business is business. I flick on the passenger side floodlight and lean over. Standing there in the downpour is, well, not the usual model. She's maybe late 20s, early 30s, and looks like she was built out of spare parts from a Terminator. Wiry muscle under a thin rain jacket, hair plastered to her skull, and an expression so intense it could curdle milk. She's not shivering. She's vibrating with some kind of internal energy, like a high-tension wire in a windstorm. I crack the window an inch. The air that comes in smells like rain and wet asphalt. A clean smell that doesn't fit the situation. "Can I help you?" I ask, keeping my voice flat. Professional. You learn early on to treat it like any other transaction. No emotion, no frills. She leans in close, her eyes locking onto mine like a pair of heat-seeking missiles. They're not desperate, not pleading. They're demanding. "I need a private space," she says, her voice low and breathy, but tight like a coiled spring. "I need it for an intense, full-body session. It's going to get loud, sweaty, and you'll probably be sore tomorrow just from watching." I just stare at her, my brain, running on 14 hours of highway and bad coffee, files this under ambitious sales pitch. I've heard it all from sob stories to straightforward price lists, but I'll give her point for presentation. Full body session. Loud. Sweaty. Sore from watching. She's really trying to sell the premium package, the director's cut. She takes my silence as hesitation. "Look," she presses, her hand coming up to rest flat against the window, right next to my face. A weirdly intimate gesture, like she's trying to feel my thoughts through the glass. I've had a profoundly dishonoring experience. My chi is blocked. I just need to work it out. My cab, my rules. All night long. My cab, her rules. All night. Okay, so she's setting the terms and conditions up front. Bold. Most of them want to haggle, play games. She's presenting a business proposal. I can appreciate the efficiency. I give the cab a quick once-over in my mind. Clean enough. Private enough. It's my office, my dining room, and my bedroom, a 10 by 8 foot slice of the world that belongs to me and me alone, and she wants to rent it. I give a slow, deliberate nod. One nod. That's all it takes. She steps back, a flicker of triumph in those laser beam eyes. I hit the button, and the pneumatic lock on the passenger door gives a satisfying his thunk. She wrenches it open and climbs in, dragging the smell of the storm in with her. The door slams shut, sealing us in. The only sounds of the rain on the roof and the low rumble of the idling engine. She's in. The deal is done. Doesn't matter how they wrap it, how fancy the language gets. End of the day, business is business. She sits there for a moment, water dripping from her hair onto the leatherette seat. The dash lights paint her in shades of red and green, highlighting the sharp angles of her face. The silence hangs heavy, thick with the smell of diesel and rain and a kind of coiled tension I can't quite place. In my world, this is the part of the negotiation where the awkward pretense drops and we get down to brass tacks. Prices, timelines, what's on and off the menu. Instead, she starts to move. With a series of efficient, almost violent motions, she shrugs out her wet jacket, tossing it into the footwell. Underneath, she's wearing one of those sports bra things that's more strap than fabric, and her shoulders and arms are just a roadmap of muscle and sinew. I've seen steer carcasses with less definition. Okay, she says to herself more than to me. We need to establish the working parameters. She plants her hands on the dashboard and pushes back, arching her spine and letting out a low groan that sounds less like pleasure and more like an engine trying to turn over on a cold morning. My internal checklist keeps ticking. Item 1, remove outer layers. Check. Item 2, make suggestive noises. Check. She's playing this by the book, just a very athletic version of the book. Maybe this is some new gimmick, a fitness angle. Then she starts stretching. She props one foot up on the dash, pulling her leg back in a way that ought to be physically impossible. The whole time, she's got that 1,000-yard stare, like she's looking right through me, through the back of the sleeper cab, and out onto the interstate. Mobility is key, she mutters, gritting her teeth. Can't have a dynamic session with static muscles. Dynamic session, right? I take a long, slow sip of my coffee. I've been called a lot of things in my life, but dynamic ain't one of them. She's really committed to the bit. I'm almost impressed. My mind is already calculating the time versus the cost. This level of performance art has to be worth at least 100. Maybe more if she keeps this up. She twists in the seat, facing me directly, her knee brushing against the gear shift. Temperature, she announces. I need it warmer. Need to get a good sweat protocol going. Can you crank the heat? Item 3, control the environment. Set the mood. Check. I reach over and turn the heat up a few notches without a word. The fan kicks in, adding another layer of sound to the drumming rain. The cab starts to feel close, humid. She nods, satisfied. Good. Now this spot, there's too much ambient light. She gestures out the windshield at the lonely orange glow of a sodium lamp 50 yards away. It's disrupting the vibe. I look at the light, then back at her. The vibe. Of course. She's not just selling a service. She's selling an experience. And you know what? Fair enough. For what she's charging, she can have whatever vibe she wants. This spot is convenient, but it's not private. Not really. I know a place. An old, forgotten service spur just off the highway, completely shielded by a thicket of pines, black as the inside of pocket. I put my coffee in its holder and wrap my hand around the gear shift. The rig groans as I put it in gear. Her head snaps toward me, eyes narrowed. What are you doing? You want a better vibe? I say, my voice a low rumble. I'll get you a better vibe. I pull the truck out of the spot, the tires crunching on the wet gravel. She doesn't say anything, just watches me, her expression unreadable. She probably thinks I'm taking her to a motel. An amateur move. No, ima profesional. We keep things in-house. It's cleaner, safer, more efficient. I turn the rig towards the access road, the headlights cutting a swath through the darkness and the driving rain. All right, lady, let's find a place to close this deal. The service spur is just as I remembered it. A dead-end strip of cracked asphalt swallowed by a wall of pine trees. It smells like damp earth and pine needles. I kill the headlights, then the engine. The sudden silence is deafening, broken only by the steady, hypnotic drumming of rain on the cab roof. The heat is thick now, clinging to the air. I flick off the wipers, and the world outside becomes a blurry, distorted watercolor. It's about as private as it gets. I turn in my seat, the old leather groaning in protest. She's watching me, her expression unblinking, intense. The air is so heavy you could cut with a knife. This is it, the end of the line. All right, I say, my voice a low rumble in the confined space. Office is closed. Time to settle up. I expect her to smile, to nod, to start the real negotiation. Instead, her face contorts into a mask of righteous fury. Her eyes, which were just intense before, now look genuinely unhinged. They violated my temple. She seethes, her voice a venomous whisper. They told me I couldn't be in my truth because it violated their shirt policy. My truth. Can you believe the audacity? My brain stalls. It's like trying to run diesel software on a gasoline engine. Shirt policy? Temple? I'm rifling through every piece of slang I've ever heard on the road, trying to decipher the code. Is temple a new word for something else? Is shirt policy some kind of safe word I missed the memo on? Before I can process this, she moves with shocking speed. She swings her legs down, planting her bare feet on the rubber floor mat. There's only one way to purify this energy, she declares to the windshield. I'm starting with 100 burpees for cleansing. And then she drops. She literally throws herself face down on the floor of the cab. Her hands slap the mat with a wet smack. Her legs kick back, her sneakers thudding against the front of my sleeper bunk. A grunt, like a boar getting tasered, echoes in the small space. I just sit there frozen, staring. My carefully constructed, road-weary understanding of the world has just been hit by a metaphorical semi going 90 miles an hour. Foreplay? Is this some kind of new age, high-impact foreplay I'm not aware of? Is this what they're doing these days? Thump. Huh. She pushes herself up, jumps her feet forward, and then leaps into the air as much as the low ceiling will allow, her hands slapping the fuzzy roof liner. She lands with a thud that shakes the whole cab. That's one. My brain is a blue screen of death. The system has crashed. What in the hell is a chi? Did she say cleansing? 100? The entire, carefully built framework of a simple, transactional encounter evaporates in a puff of sweaty, nonsensical smoke. The sexual tension that filled the cab moments ago is gone, sucked out and replaced by a creeping, baffling horror. I didn't pick up a lot lizard. I think I picked up a lunatic. She finishes the 10th burpee with a final, guttural roar that seems to shake the fillings in my teeth. The cab is now a hot box of her exertion, smelling like sweat and wet vinyl. She stays on the floor, transitioning into a series of frantic push-ups, her breath hissing between her teeth. I'm just a spectator at a one-woman circus of the absurd. The manager, she pants, mid-push-up, this little man, Chad with a clipboard, told me it was about hygiene. She spits the word out like it's poison. He said I couldn't perform the WOD without appropriate torso coverage. WOD means workout of the day, she adds, as if that clarifies anything. I just nod. My brain is still buffering, trying to process the raw data. WOD, Chad, torso coverage. It's a foreign language describing a problem from another planet. My tribe follows me for my authenticity, she continues, her voice rising with indignation. She flips on her back and begins a set of crunches, her knees pumping towards the ceiling. They need to see the struggle. They need to see the unfiltered reality of me crushing my goals. How can I be vulnerable and inspirational for them if I'm being censored by the patriarchy in the form of a corporate gym policy? I stare at the rain-streaked windshield. My mind is desperately trying to build a bridge from her words to a reality I can understand. Nobody, and I mean nobody, gets this worked up over a gym rule. Not enough to get into a stranger's semi in the middle of a storm. This has to be a cover, a story, a well-rehearsed, albeit insane-sounding, script to hide what's really going on. She finishes the crunches and sits up, her chest heaving. She finally looks at me, her eyes pleading for understanding, for solidarity. He called it a box, like we're just animals. He had no respect for the sanctity of the space. So I left. I had to get out of that town. I couldn't be in a place with that kind of toxic, restrictive energy. She finishes her tale, breathing hard, looking at me like I'm supposed to pin a medal on her. And that's when it clicks. My brain, refusing to accept the sheer, weapons-grade stupidity of her story, finds the one piece of logic it can cling to. It all snaps into place with the force of a released winch cable. She had to get out of town. She was in a place with a man, a manager. A place she called a box. There was a dispute over the contents. Something she felt was rightfully hers, her truth. She needed a private space, away from prying eyes, immediately. My God, it's not a gym. The box isn't a place, it's a thing. A safe deposit box. Chad the manager wasn't a gym owner. He was her partner, the inside man at a small town bank. The WOD, workout of the day, that's not it. It's a code. Withdrawal on demand. The argument over her shirt was the distraction for the security cameras while she cleaned the place out. She double-crossed him, took everything, and ran. The frantic exercise, the talk of blocked energy, it's not a workout. It's adrenaline, the pure, uncut panic of a fugitive on the run. The story is an alibi, a cover so insane nobody would ever question it. She wasn't a prostitute. She was a goddamn bank robber. And I was the getaway driver. Her initial adrenaline dump seems to wear off, replaced by a kind of manic energy. My cab, my sanctuary of quiet professionalism, is rapidly being transformed into her personal ashram on wheels. She pulls a small, scuffed-up duffel bag from the floor, unzips it, and the smell of chalk and old leather fills the air. All right, time for phase 2, metabolic conditioning, she announces to no one in particular. She rummages inside the bag and pulls out a small, portable speaker. Before I can object, she's syncing it to her phone. A moment later, the cab is filled with the sounds of what can only be described as a robot having a seizure on a drum kit. It's all aggressive, pounding bass and screeching digital noise. She calls it grindcore techno. I call it a damn headache. Next, she produces a shaker bottle filled with a sludgy, green liquid. You want some? She asks, shaking it vigorously. Keto collagen kale infusion. Cleanses the gut biome and primes the muscles for peak glycogen absorption. I'll stick to the coffee, I say, holding up my cup. It primes my will to live. She just shrugs, chugs half of the green sludge in one go, and lets out a satisfied belch that smells faintly of lawn clippings and regret. She is now, I realize, an occupying force. She's retuned my radio station to her alien frequency. My air now smells of her weird health potions. The entire atmosphere of my self-contained world has been hijacked. You have to understand, she says, her voice suddenly earnest over the racket from the speaker. It's not just about lifting. It's a philosophy. It's about AMRAP. As many reps as possible. Not just in the box, but in life. You see a challenge, you don't walk away. You attack it. You find your failure point. And then you push past it. I just nod, my eyes on the road, even though we're not moving. My mind is translating. AMRAP. All my robberies are perfect. Find your failure point. Know when the cops are closing in. Push past it. Get the hell out of Dodge. It all fits. She's not just a thief. She's a motivational speaker for criminals. She's turned her entire life into a high-intensity heist. Her invasion becomes physical. She decides the floor of the cab is too restrictive. Without asking, she starts clearing off my passenger seat, stuffing my logbooks, maps, and a half-eaten bag of jerky into the overhead compartment. Hey, careful with that. I grumble. Clutter blocks flow, she says dismissively. You need to optimize your space for maximum efficiency. She then plants her hands on the seat and the dash and kicks her legs up, attempting some kind of handstand push-up. Her bare feet, smudged with dirt from the floor mat, are now inches from my face, dangling over the gear shift. It's a profound violation of my personal space, a declaration that my world is now her workout zone. My irritation, simmering just below the surface, spikes into genuine anger. This isn't about a workout anymore. This is a hostile takeover. Her grimy feet are dangling inches from my face, swinging back and forth in time with her grunts. The whole cab smells like a locker room. My jaw is so tight, I'm in danger of cracking a molar. This is it. I've had enough of the grindcore techno, the kale farts, and the Cirque du Soleil routine on my passenger seat. I'm about to tell her this session is over, and to get the hell out of my truck, consequences be damned. I don't care if she's a bank robber. She's an annoying bank robber. I reach for my own phone, mostly just to have something to look at that isn't her calloused heels. I'm scrolling through a weather app, trying to ground myself in the simple reality of atmospheric pressure and wind speed, when her phone, which is sitting on the center console, buzzes and lights up. My eyes flick over to it, not out of curiosity, but just because it's a distraction. The screen displays a text message notification. The sender's name is Chad. My blood runs cold. Chad, the manager, her jilted partner. The message preview is right there, clear as day under the dim glow of the cab lights. It reads, "You can't just run out on a contract. You owe me for the whole cycle. I want my money, or I'm coming to collect." A jolt, like downing a whole pot of coffee, shoots through me. It's a surge of pure, uncut vindication. I knew it. Contract. Cycle. Collect. It's not gym speak. It's the oldest language in the world. Greed and threats. She didn't just double-cross him. She took everything and left him holding the bag. And now he's hunting her. Suddenly, everything makes sense. Her paranoia, her frantic need to work out the stress, her hiding out in the middle of nowhere. She's not crazy. She's terrified. The workout isn't a workout. It's a panic attack expressed through calisthenics. My anger evaporates, replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. Kicking her out now would be like throwing a rabbit to a wolf. A very loud, very annoying rabbit, sure, but still. More importantly, she's a live wire, a cornered animal, and I'm locked in a very small box with her. If I antagonize her, she might get desperate. But if I play it smart, if I make her think I'm on her side, maybe I can figure out what she did with the money. Her feet finally thud back down onto the seat. She's breathing hard, looking at her phone. She sees the message and her face darkens. I put my own phone down slowly. I turn to her and soften my voice, making it low and conspiratorial. Problems? I ask, nodding toward her phone. She looks at me, her eyes narrowed, suspicious. Look, I say, leaning in. You're in a jam. You need a place to lay low. I get it. More than you think. I let that hang in the air, an open invitation into a world I'm pretending to be a part of. Her suspicion wavers, replaced by a flicker of hope. She thinks she's found an ally, a fellow traveler on the wrong side of the law. I force a reassuring smile. Don't you worry, I say, my voice smooth as fresh asphalt. We'll figure this out. I'll keep you safe. Morning. The rain has stopped, leaving the world washed clean and smelling of wet pavement. I've managed maybe an hour of sleep in my bunk, punctuated by the rhythmic thudding of her doing what she called a pre-dawn mobility flow. My truck now has the permanent aroma of a sweaty yoga mat. I need coffee. Real coffee, not her sludge. And I need to get my bearings, figure out my next move now that I'm the unwitting wheelman for a CrossFit-themed Bonnie Parker. We roll into a Flying J. It's the usual morning rush, drivers bleary-eyed and surly, the air thick with the smell of frying bacon and diesel exhaust. It's my church, my sanctuary, and I brought the devil and Lululemon with me. We sit down in a booth. I order black coffee and a plate of something guaranteed to clog my arteries. She orders a single poached egg and a glass of hot water with lemon, then proceeds to lecture the waitress about the inflammatory properties of gluten. The waitress, a woman who looks like she's been smoking since the Johnson administration, just stares at her with the dead-eyed apathy of a career professional. Look, I say, keeping my voice low once the waitress is gone. That message from Chad. This is serious. You need a plan. The plan is to recalibrate, she says, staring intently at her glass of hot water. I need to find a new box. A place with a more enlightened philosophy. A place that honors the sacred journey of physical transformation. I'm grinding my teeth again. She's still talking in code, even now. Fine. A new box. I repeat, making eye contact. Right? A new bank to hit. But this guy Chad, he's not just going to let you set up a new operation. He's coming for his cut. Before she can answer, she spots it. In the corner of the diner, a small TV is mounted to the wall, tuned to some morning news program. And on the screen is an interview with a man with a perfectly gelled swoop of hair, a tight polo shirt, and a clipboard. The cheering beneath him reads, Chad Brickman, owner, Synergy Strength Systems. Her whole body goes rigid. Chad is on TV, looking earnest and concerned, talking about a disruptive incident at his facility. He's painting a picture of a cherished but unstable client who had a minor psychological break over the gym's new shirt policy and vanished. He's not talking like a jilted partner in crime. He's talking like a concerned business owner. And then she does it. She stands up, right there in the middle of the crowded diner. Lies, she bellows, pointing a trembling finger at the television. He's gaslighting me. He's trying to silence my truth with his corporate-mandated narrative. Every head in the diner swivels toward our booth. 50 pairs of tired, cynical trucker eyes are now locked onto us. I see a couple of guys I know from the run up to Chicago. They're staring, their expressions a mixture of pity and morbid curiosity. My coffee cup is halfway to my mouth, frozen in midair. I feel a hot flush of shame creep up my neck. In my world, you don't make a scene. You just don't. It's the cardinal rule. In our world, you have a reputation. Mine was quiet and professional. In 30 seconds, she'd just rewritten it to Circus Clown's Taxi Service. That's a stain that doesn't wash out. She's still standing, breathing like a bull about to charge, oblivious to the sea of stares. She's turned my quiet morning coffee into a public spectacle. It's not about her fake crime anymore. She has made me, by association, a clown in the circus. And in this world, that's a professional sin I can't afford. I grab her by the arm, an arm that feels like a bundle of steel cables, and haul her out of the diner, throwing a 20 on the table as we go. The burning stares of every driver in that room follow us out the door. My reputation, my carefully maintained image as a quiet, no-drama professional, is now a smoldering wreck. Back in the cab, the silence is thick and hostile. She's vibrating with righteous fury. I'm vibrating with the kind of rage that makes you want to bite a chunk out of the steering wheel. Did you see that? She hisses. The way he controlled the story? That's classic toxic masculinity. He's trying to frame me as unstable to invalidate my lived experience. My lived experience, I say, my voice dangerously calm, is that I can't show my face in that truck stop again without being remembered as the guy who brought a screaming lunatic to breakfast. You made me look like a fool. This is bigger than your social comfort, she retorts, completely missing the point. This is about justice. He can't get away with this. We have to go back. I just stare at her. Go back. To Des Moines? Are you insane? Not to the box, she says, her eyes gleaming with a terrifying new idea. To his house. I looked it up once. It's in this gated community. I need to confront him. I need to make him acknowledge the spiritual violence he committed. This is it. The line. My job is to haul freight from point A to point B. My load is 40,000 pounds of frozen pork destined for Chicago. My schedule is tight. A detour to some suburban palace of justice so she can lecture a gym owner about his spiritual violence is not just impossible. It's a categorical violation of reality. No, I say. The word is flat. Final. A period at the end of sentence. I'm not taking you to this guy's house. I am taking this pork to Chicago. End of story. Her face crumbles. The righteous warrior deflates, replaced by a petulant child. Her lower lip begins to tremble. But you said you'd help me. You said you understood. I understood you were in trouble. I didn't understand you were a walking, talking liability who wants to torpedo my career over a t-shirt. Tears begin to well up in her eyes. Real tears. They spill over and run down her cheeks in clean tracks through the grime of her morning workout. You don't get it, she wails, her voice cracking. My whole identity is built on authenticity. If I let him silence me, I have nothing left. It's all I have. She dissolves into a full-blown, gasping, shoulder-shaking tantrum. The cab, which has been a crime scene, a gym, and a public spectacle, is now a daycare center for a grown woman having a meltdown. I just sit there, hands gripping the steering wheel, my knuckles white. We are at a complete and total impasse. My immovable object has just met her unstoppable force of sheer, unadulterated crazy. The air is thick with the sound of her sobs and the quiet, humming rage of my engine. The tantrum eventually whimpers itself out, leaving behind a thick, swampy silence. I let it hang in the air for a good 10 minutes, letting her stew in it. Finally, I unbuckle my seatbelt. 5 minutes, I say, not looking at her. I'm doing my final walk around. Then this truck is rolling east. You can get out and call your friend Chad to come get you, or you can sit there quietly until we hit the Chicago yard. Your choice. I don't wait for an answer. I swing out of the cab and into the cool morning air. The familiar ritual of the pre-trip inspection is calming. I kick the tires, checking the pressure by sound and feel. I run my hand along the air hoses and electrical lines connecting the tractor to the trailer, making sure everything is secure. My breath fogs in the air. This is my world. A world of simple, physical facts. Air pressure, tread depth, load integrity. A world that makes sense. For a moment, I can almost forget about the alien creature polluting my cab. I finish my circuit at the back of the tractor, right below the passenger side door. I can't see her through the tinted window, but I know she's in there, watching, fuming, believing her trivial tragedy is the most important thing in the universe. I take one last deep breath of clean, diesel-scented air and climb back into the driver's seat. She's exactly where I left her, staring out the window, the picture of sullen defiance. Fine by me. Silence is a currency I can afford. I fire up the engine, and the big Cummins diesel rumbles to life beneath us. As the air pressure builds, my eyes do their final, practice sweep of the dash. Oil good. Bolts good. Air coming up. Fuel half a tank. My gaze slides to the small, unassuming digital display for the reefer unit, and my blood turns to ice. The status light is off. A small, red alarm icon is blinking insistently. The temperature reading, which should be a steady, rock-solid -10 degrees, is now +4. It's climbing. 40,000 pounds of prime pork, my responsibility, my bond, my entire reason for being on this godforsaken stretch of I-80 is starting to thaw. I look at the display. I look at the back of her head. She doesn't move. She thinks she's being clever. She thinks she's created a problem I have to solve, a problem that will force me to stop, to listen, to give in to her ridiculous demands. She thinks this is a negotiation. In that instant, something inside me snaps. Not with a bang, but with a quiet, clean break. The frustration, the humiliation, the simmering rage, it all burns away like morning fog. All that's left is a cold, silent, and absolute clarity. This is no longer a misunderstanding. It's not an annoyance. She didn't just push a button. She took a direct shot at my life. A real professional, a bank robber, would never be this sloppy. They understand consequences. This wasn't a professional. This was a goddamn amateur throwing a tantrum. I say nothing. I put the truck in gear. The air brakes hiss. She's a problem. And in my world, problems don't get debated. They get solved. The game is over. She just doesn't know it yet. The little red light on the reefer display blinks. Blink, blink. A tiny, digital heartbeat marking the slow death of my paycheck. +4 degrees. +5. Each tick upwards is another dollar burning in my pocket. All my theories, the lot lizard, the bank robber, they were just stories I told myself. Funhouse mirrors that made the insanity a little more interesting. The truth is much simpler and much worse. She's not a criminal mastermind. She's just a child. A spoiled, entitled child who thinks the world is her personal gymnasium and who just threw a multi-$1,000 tantrum because I wouldn't play along. I look at the blinking light. Then I look at her, still staring out the window, wrapped in a blanket of self-pity. I feel nothing. It's a strange sensation. The anger from the diner, the simmering rage, the deep-seated irritation, it's all gone. It feels like a circuit breaker tripped somewhere deep in my skull. The emotional part of my brain, the part that gets annoyed and tries to make sense of things, just went dark. All that's left is the cold, clean hum of the logic board. The problem is the load. The load is thawing because the reefer is off. The reefer is off because she turned it off. The solution is not to yell. The solution is not to argue. Yelling at a tornado doesn't make it change course. She wasn't a passenger anymore. She wasn't even a person, not in any meaningful sense. She was a contamination, a foreign element introduced into a closed system, causing critical failure. And you don't argue with contamination. You don't try to understand its motivation. You contain it, and then you dispose of it. I reach down and pick up the GPS unit from the console. My movements are slow, deliberate. My hands are perfectly steady. I turn it on, the screen glowing to life, bathing my face in a soft blue light. She doesn't even turn to look. She's probably assuming I'm finally programming the route to her guru's suburban mansion. Let her think that. It's better that way. The satellite connects. A map of the Midwest springs into view. I ignore the blinking icon of our current location. I ignore the thick blue line that marks the fastest route to Chicago. My finger taps the screen, calling up the search function. I wasn't looking for a route to Chicago anymore. I was looking for a solution. I don't turn the truck on. I just sit there, the cab rumbling around us, the GPS screen casting a pale blue light on my hands. After a long moment, I let out a slow, deliberate sigh. It's a sound of theatrical defeat. You know what? I say, my voice quiet, almost weary. You're right. She turns her head slowly, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. What did you say? You're right. I repeat, finally turning to look at her. I arrange my face into an expression of dawning, reluctant enlightenment. I've been looking at this all wrong. Thinking about the load, the schedule, the money. It's just stuff. It's a temporary problem. I gesture vaguely at the blinking red light on the reefer control. But what you're talking about, your truth, your lived experience, that's permanent. I can see the gears turning in her head. She's processing this, checking it for traps. I sell a little more, using her own ammunition against her. It's about prioritizing what really matters. My whole life is logistics. Point A to point B. Maybe I'm the one with the blocked chi. I could feel a little piece of my soul die just saying it, but it worked like a key in a lock. That's the magic word. A slow smile spreads across her face. It's a smile of pure, undiluted victory. She has broken me. She has enlightened a simple-minded trucker. I knew you had it in you, she says, her voice soft and condescending, like a guru praising a particularly slow student. I knew you could see past the material plane if you just tried. It's about energy. You've finally aligned your frequency with the mission. Right, the mission. I nod, as if seeing the world for the first time. I turn back to the GPS, and with deliberate, slow movements, I begin typing. What's the address for this guy's house? She recites an address in a place called Whispering Pines Estates. Of course she does. I punch it in. A new route appears on the screen, a jagged detour north. I pull the truck into gear, the air brakes hissing their release, and we roll out onto the highway. I don't even look at the reefer display. The pork is a lost cause now. It's just a tool, an expensive, thawing prop in the final act of this ridiculous play. For the next hour, she is insufferable. She coaches me on my breathing. She critiques my posture. She gives me a long, rambling lecture on how the interstate highway system is a metaphor for the rigid, patriarchal structures that inhibit our spiritual growth. All the while, my mind is a silent predator. My eyes are scanning. I am hunting. Every road sign, every billboard, every exit ramp is a potential opportunity. Exit 242, gas. Food. No. Truck repair. Useless. State penitentiary next, right? Too complicated. Billboard. Jesus saves. Too easy. I'm not just looking for a place to dump her. I need the right place. An ironic place. A place that will deliver a lesson in reality so profound it will scramble her chakras for a decade. We're deep in farm country now. Nothing but corn, cows, and the occasional grain silo. My window of opportunity is closing. Then I see it. It's not an official sign. It's hand-painted, weathered wood, stuck in the mud on the side of the county road we're using as a shortcut. The letters are crude, but the message is clear. It says, The Harvest Covenant. Find your purpose in toil. Volunteers needed. Inquire at farm. A long, dirt driveway disappears into a cluster of stark, functional-looking barns in the distance. My internal monologue, silent for so long, speaks a single, final sentence. There it is. I flick on my right turn signal. The rhythmic clicking fills the cab. The turn signal clicked, a steady, metronomic beat counting down the last seconds of her occupation. She finally looked away from the window, her brow furrowed. This isn't the way to Whispering Pines. It's a shortcut, I said, my voice as flat and even as the horizon. Trust the process. I eased the rig down the long, muddy driveway. The suspension groaned as we bounced over ruts and potholes. The place looked less like a farm and more like a work camp from a history book. There were no tractors, just a couple of tired-looking draft horses hitched to a plow. Men and women in plain, dark clothing were out in the fields, bent over rows of crops, moving with a slow, relentless rhythm. The only sounds were the wind and the low rumble of my engine. It was a place stripped of all comfort, all vanity, all ego. It was perfect. I pulled to a stop in front of the largest barn. A man detached himself from a group that was splitting firewood. He was tall, with a beard that looked like it could stop a fist fight and eyes that had seen too many winters. He walked towards the truck with the unhurried gait of a man who owned every minute of his day. I powered down the passenger side window. "Morning," I said. The man just nodded, his eyes sizing me up, then flicking to the woman beside me. "Saw your sign on the road." I continued, my voice calm and friendly. "About needing volunteers?" "We always need hands for the Lord's work," the man said, his voice a low, gravelly rumble. "Well, it's your lucky day." I jerked my thumb toward my passenger. "This young lady has had a spiritual awakening. She told me she's desperate to find her purpose in toil. Said she needs to escape the toxic energy of the modern world and get back to something authentic. Want to have an intense, full-body session for cleansing." The woman's jaw dropped. She stared at me, her eyes wide with a dawning, horrified understanding. That's not," she stammered. The bearded man's severe expression softened into something resembling a smile. He looked at her toned arms and athletic build, and saw nothing but a strong back for labor. "The soul finds its truth in sweat and soil," he said, nodding slowly. "We welcome you, sister." "No, you don't understand," she shrieked, finally finding her voice. "He's lying. This is a mistake." The man's smile didn't waver. The path to enlightenment is often paved with doubt. The worldly self will fight to the very end. Do not be afraid. We will help you purge it. Two women in bonnets appeared at his side as if summoned from the earth itself. They opened the passenger door. "Come, sister," one of them said, her voice firm but not unkind. "The potatoes won't weed themselves." She looked at me, her face a mask of pure panic. "You can't just leave me here." I looked her dead in the eye. My face was a blank slate. "As many reps as possible," I said. Then I powered up the window, cutting off her scream. They led her away, protesting and struggling, a splash of neon pink spandex and white-hot fury being swallowed by a sea of brown earth and gray piety. I watched in the side view mirror until she was just as small, insignificant in the vastness of the farm. I put the truck in gear and pulled away. I didn't look back. The silence in the cab was beautiful. It was the sound of a problem solved, the sound of order restored. The little red light on the reefer display was still blinking. 40,000 pounds of ruined pork. A costly lesson, to be sure. But as I pointed the truck east toward a ruined delivery and a very angry dispatcher, I had one final thought. She came looking for an authentic struggle. I just gave her a lifetime supply, no charge.